Peace, family. This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. I promised you guys a review of Pacific Rim. Told you I was going to see it Friday in IMAX 3D, and I definitely did. And this movie is the truth. That's it in a nutshell. Go see it. And if you're going to see this movie, make sure you see it in IMAX 3D. I know before I said there are certain movies that you can really miss the 3D. This is a movie that you have to see in IMAX 3D because the scope and scale of it is extraordinary. And I'm really excited about this movie, even after seeing it, because Guillermo del Toro has set the bar and the standard for how these kaiju and these Jaeger type movies, these mecha movies are supposed to be. So the Godzilla people need to take some notes because I know that they're going to do another Godzilla reboot. Not the same people who did the first American Tragedy, but they're going to do um, another reboot of the Godzilla. It's going to be American made, but it's going to be sort of like an homage to the old Japanese Godzillas, but more updated. Well, if you're going to attempt to do that, I think you better take some notes from Mr. Del Toro because he got it right. He nailed it. Now, the premise behind this movie is that the kaiju, which is a Japanese basically word for monster, emerged from the Pacific Ocean, deep underground, and start attacking the Earth in different parts of the Earth. And the humans are getting their ass kicked, and their weapons are useless against them. So they come up with a plan to develop these answers to the kaiju, which are the Jaegers. And I believe that that's the German word for hunter. And they create these mechas, which basically go and fight the kaiju and kill them. And at one point, it seems to be working. And then things start going wrong because then the kaiju start adapting. And they start kicking the mecha's asses. And so the mecha program is about to be abandoned because it's just proven to be ineffective against the kaiju. And so we come in at the movie at that point. Now, Charlie Hunnam, who if people watch Sons of Anarchy, they'll recognize him because he plays Jax on Sons of Anarchy. He's the lead, and he does a good job. And as a matter of fact, I was kind of pleased to see him in this role because I do like him as Jax on Sons of Anarchy. So when I heard about Pacific Rim, you got big giant monsters, big giant robots, and then you got the Sons of Anarchy because he was in there, and then you have Ron Perlman, who has a cameo appearance in the movie. Not a big role, but a funny role, hilarious role. And Del Toro and him work together all the time because if you remember, Ron Perlman played Hellboy. So I think that's one of those things where, you know, Charlie Hunnam got the inside track because he's tight with Ron Perlman and Ron Perlman is tight with Del Toro. And so it was perfect for him to slide in as the lead. What made me like this movie so much was I've been a fan of Godzilla since I was a young boy. I remember even back in public school, I used to draw Godzilla. You know what I mean? I would draw Godzilla, and Godzilla was like I used to make these Godzilla models and stuff because they used to sell them where you can make the models of Godzilla, and they have the back that's glow in the dark. If y'all remember that shit. And so I always had this thing for monsters. Like most little kids. Most little kids love monsters. You know what I'm saying? So I've been waiting for them to update the whole kaiju culture, the whole kaiju Japanese monster culture. Um, if you remember back in the days, it was basically done with miniature sets, and then you had the guy who was in the costume or what they call the rubber suit, and we didn't care. Like back then, we just thought it was cool. Like it didn't matter if, of course, it's a big guy in a rubber suit and he's stomping through these miniature sets and whatever. But now we're, up to date. We're past 2000. This is 2013. The technology is caught up. So I've been wondering, like, when is somebody gonna make, bring that genre and update it and make it accessible for the kids of today or the big kids like me? And Del Toro did it. He nailed it. And the thing that's really bothering me is that this movie is not getting the amount of props and the amount of energy and attention that it should be because of all this other crap that's come out before it. Like I was talking to my cousin, he said he had zero interest in seeing this because when he saw it, he kept thinking about Battleship and all of these other crappy movies that came out with dealing with robots or mechanized type, technology, and they were corny. So when he saw Pacific Rim, he's like, "Oh boy, here we go again," and he just didn't have any interest in it. And I was interested only because Del Toro was behind it and I like him. And also when I found out how big a fan he was of these Japanese monster movies, I said, "You know what? I'm really anxious to see this." And trust me, I know that it's CGI, but when you go see the movie, it doesn't feel like it's CGI. It feels like you are actually witnessing these huge ass robots going against these huge ass monsters. The way that the scale is, the depth, the width and the magnitude of the action, oh man, it's breathtaking. You have to see this in IMAX 3D. Now, I noticed, like I can pick this movie apart um, the same way you can pick apart, you know, King Kong versus Godzilla or Mecha Godzilla versus Godzilla. Or, you can pick these movies apart because it's not really there. These are not going for Oscar contention. This is a very simple, basic premise. When you go to see Pacific Rim, you're going to see big, huge monsters fighting big ass robots. That's the premise of the movie. So, character development is going to be minimal, and it is. Um, Backstory is going to be there, but it's going to be minimal. They give you just enough to keep you interested and to keep the story so that when you see these guys in the suits and they're going against these monsters, there's a investment in those characters that you don't want to see them get hurt and you don't want to see them get killed. And if you can manage to do that without taking away from the action, everybody will be happy and pleased as punched. And that's how I judge this movie. So people, you're going to hear some reviews and people talk about, oh, the lead character was underdeveloped. What the fuck you think this is? Sophie's Choice? This is Pacific Rim. This is Kaiju versus Mecha. You know what I'm saying? Does it deliver on that? Hell fucking yes. So anybody that tells you that they did not like this movie, start asking them questions about why you didn't like the movie. I was shocked that if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, the movies is around 80%, which is amazing. Because most of the time on Rotten Potatoes, even if the movie's good, it's like 70%. 80% by the critics and the audience. And I pay more attention to the audience than I do the critics. Um, oh, let me not go without talking about the people, the principals in here. Idris Elba he played the general of the Jaeger initiative. He was the guy that was behind it. And he did an excellent job. Excellent job. It's like I said, this movie's going to hit certain notes, and it's going to be certain things that just come with the territory. There's always going to be that big emotional speech, which you've probably seen like a clip of it in the trailers. I mean, that's typical. That's cliched. They give it to you, but it worked. There's going to be that tension between the crew where one guy doesn't like the other guy, but eventually they have to work together to get something done. We've seen this before, but this is what comes with the territory. This is not new ground. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that's new is the technology and the way that they bring the action to you and the way that they make this movie look. And it's hitting on all notes for me. I want to see it again. Whoever my friends are that did not see it, I told them to let me know so I can go and see it with them again, and I will see it in the IMAX 3D again. So that shows you that I really like it. But anyway, that's my review of Pacific Rim. I basically gave you the whole thing. I don't want to get into the details of every little single thing. I mean, let me just throw this at you. They had some scientists in there who provided the comic relief for the movie, and they were good. A little bit, you can argue they were maybe a little bit over the top and hyper, but it's relative. Like I said, Ron Perlman had a really funny cameo, and the Japanese girl who played opposite Jax, wasn't typical. Like she wasn't this glamour girl. She was really kind of plain Janish, and so they didn't really exploit that aspect where you have the hot Asian chick that they always have. They really kind of like played that down, and I appreciated that. So in conclusion, go see Pacific Rim. It gets the thumbs up from me. And if you hear that somebody says that it wasn't good, do not listen to that person when it comes to movies ever again, because they're incompetent and should not be allowed to review a movie. Go see it. Talk to you good people later. Peace.